perfectly right. "I hate hunting season," she murmured. "So do I." The vehemence in his voice made her glance up at him. Once she got past the hypnotic depths of his eyes, she saw the anguish etching lines around his mouth. "It's just a graze," she said, her sympathy fully engaged. No internal organs were hit, it didn't even reach the muscle. "I checked him over and couldn't find anything else wrong," he said, tension still holding his broad shoulders rigid. "Let me clean and bandage this, and I'll get a vet tech to help turn him over so I can check his left side," she said, opening drawers to gather her supplies. "However, I don't think we'll find anything else. He's not showing any signs of significant distress." "No need for a vet tech," Adam said. "It's better if I handle Trace." "He's a big dog," Hannah said, eyeing the bulk of the shepherd as she shaved the hair away from the wound. "He didn't react well to the vet tech on his last visit. Only Dr. Tim could handle him. And now you." "If I can't manage to touch a patient, I'm not a very competent vet," she said with a smile, hoping a little self-deprecation would relax him. Of course, the Chicago media had portrayed her as both heartless and inept. She shoved the thought away as she finished trimming around the wound before swabbing it and applying a sterile pad. Trace flinched, but lay still. She scratched behind his ear. "What a good boy you are." She slid her hands under the dog and traced along ribs and bones to make sure turning him wouldn't do any damage. He exhibited no symptoms of further tenderness or injury, even thumping his tail on the table when she gave him a little tickle along his tummy. "Incredible," his owner muttered. Hannah believed in giving her patients a little pleasure to offset their pain. Evidently, the black-browed Mr. Bosch disapproved. "Nothing seems broken, so let's turn him," she said briskly. As the two of them gently rolled the dog over, their heads came within a few inches of each other, and an intriguing aroma of spices filled her nostrils. She was nearly overcome by a desire to bury her nose in Adam's thick, dark hair to inhale more. She jerked her head away, locking her attention on the dog. A thorough examination of Trace's left side showed no fresh trauma, but she could feel ridges of what seemed to be scar tissue beneath his fur. She frowned as she traced them with her fingertips. "What is it?" Adam asked, his voice tight with worry. "Has Trace been injured before?" Because he had come in as an emergency case, she hadn't checked the dog's history. "He tangled with a bear a few years ago. Dr. Tim saved his life." "Ah, that explains the scars." Hannah lifted her head to take her first real look at Adam, discovering he had an aquiline nose, a marked cleft in his chin, and a noticeable 5 o'clock shadow. Her experience with her ex-fiancé had taught her not to trust good-looking men, but she couldn't repress a little shiver of appreciation. And he cared about his dog. "There's nothing to worry about. The wound should heal fine. I'll show you how to clean and dress it, and I'll want to see him again next week to make sure there's no infection." She'd never before seen a person literally sag in relief, but Adam Bosch seemed to be held upright only by his palms braced on the examining table. "Thank you," he breathed. "I'd never forgive myself if he'd been seriously injured again." "Let's get him to sit up so I can put a bandage on him to hold the gauze in place." He pushed up from the table, the muscles in his forearms flexing under the shift in weight. "Sit." The note of authority in Adam's voice sent another zing of surprise through her. He sounded like a man accustomed to being obeyed. Trace came to a sitting position instantly. "Good dog," Adam said, as the dog kept his gaze on his master, ears alert and upright. "He's well trained," Hannah said, winding a bright green bandage around the dog's chest and front legs. "I claim no credit. As a former police dog, he's used to taking orders," Adam said. Hannah made the mistake of glancing up from her task and was ensnared by the charm of his smile. It emphasized the full curve of his lower lip while giving the corners of his eyes appealing crinkles. He was a shockingly attractive man. She jerked her gaze back to her patient, who sat like a statue on the table as she wrapped him in fabric. "You are such a sweetheart," she said, unable to resist rubbing her cheek against Trace's gleaming head as she scratched under his chin. He gave her a wet, doggy kiss. "Unbelievable," Adam said. Annoyed at his repeated comments on her bedside manner, Hannah gave him a cool look. "Do you have a problem with